Hey friends, it's Margaret from Bite Me, the show about edibles. While I love making edibles, sometimes I just want a quick, smooth way to enjoy my favorite herb. And that's where my PAX dry herb vaporizer comes in. I've been using this device for a while now, and I love it. The PAX vaporizer is sleek, portable, and incredibly easy to use. Whether you're at home or on the go, you can pack it with your favorite cannabis and get smooth, flavorful hits every single time. No smoke, no harshness, just pure vapor. Plus, the battery life on this thing is pretty amazing, and I can enjoy multiple sessions without needing a charge. And one of the things I love most about PAX is how discreet and convenient it is. It's perfect for those times when you want to enjoy some weed, but you don't want the strong smell that comes with smoking. And with its smart heat technology, you get a consistent experience every time, making it a great companion for cannabis enthusiasts who appreciate quality. If you're ready to elevate your cannabis experience, head over to pax.com and get yours today. Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 298. And today we are doing popcorn marshmallow treats. Welcome to Bite Me, the show about edibles, where I help you take control of your high life. I'm your host and certified ganger, Margaret, and I love helping cooks make safe and effective edibles at home. I'm so glad you're here. And welcome back, friends, to another wonderful episode of Bite Me, the show about edibles, a podcast that helps cooks make great edibles at home and explores the intersection of food culture and cannabis. What are we making today? Well, I'm glad you asked. And of course, you listened to the intro, so I know you already know that 298, it's hard to believe I'm about to push 300 episodes. But today we're doing popcorn marshmallow treats. I think we're just going to hop right in today. Except for me to say that if you haven't considered joining the Bite Me Cannabis Club, head over to joinbiteme.com and check it out, because I am really excited and proud of the space that has been created over there. And I would love to say that I created it, but of course it's only with the help of the people who are participating in that community that makes it so wonderful. So it's not just me, but it is a wonderful way for me to connect with you listeners in a place where we can talk about cannabis and edibles openly without the restrictions that you find on a lot of social media platforms, unfortunately. It's a cool space, so I hope you'll consider finding me over there as well so we can continue the conversation. Now, with that out of the way, I just want to say thank you for listening as well. If you're just joining us for the first time, I'm really glad that you found the show, and I would love to hear where you're listening from. And if you've been here for a while, I appreciate you. It's listeners like you that make this all worthwhile. And oftentimes I talk to other people who are doing work similar to my own, some kind of, I hate the word content creation, but podcasters, YouTubers, book authors. There's all sorts of people out there who are making things in the world for other people to enjoy. And the question often comes up, why do you keep doing it? I'm not alone in this, that many of us feel that it's the connection with the people that you're working for, in a sense. It's when you get that email from somebody who said, hey, I just found your show and I'm really enjoying it. It's when that person joins your community and starts to participate and is obviously getting a lot of value out of it. It's the messages that you might get on some social platform where somebody finds something you posted and shares how it impacted them. And these are the reasons why we keep going. And that's the reason why I keep going. So thank you for those who are along the ride, who are on this journey with me. Because when I started out almost 6 years ago, did I think that I would still be doing this today and that I would have people joining along for the ride? No. And I'm figuring it all out as I go. I am literally figuring out as I go, because it seems like every time I figure something out, the rules change. So it's a challenge, of course. I'm sure you probably feel the same way when it comes to using a lot of your own softwares and services that we have to engage with every day, but it can be challenging, and it's a little less lonely because of the Bite Me Cannabis Club. Thanks for being here. I appreciate you. Now, you may be wondering, what's a popcorn marshmallow treat? Well, I'm so glad you asked, because that's why we're here today. So remember a few weeks back when we really got into the science of the perfect popcorn. Now, partly that was because I had just done a deep dive into making ghee, and you can use ghee to make popcorn. And I have since made so much popcorn, my friends. I have made popcorn with, I can't remember if I've mentioned this on the show. I feel like I might have. But to recap, I've made popcorn with ghee, with olive oil, with butter, and with beef tallow. Actually, I haven't tried it with olive oil yet. I'm sure that would be another option. The avocado oil seems to be one of my favorites just because the oil sits right above the stove and it's easy to grab and it has a high smoke point and it has a nice flavor. And of course, if you want to infuse it, you can cook your popcorn in the oil. The butter was the worst of those that I mentioned, actually. So if you want to use an infused butter or an infused oil to drizzle over top afterwards, that's your best bet as far as that goes. But we really got into it, and I've been enjoying making popcorn pretty regularly. There's something really fun about making it in a pot, and does it necessarily take a lot more time than making it in the microwave or an air popper? Not really. And the microwave popcorn, I have thoughts about that. I'm not really a big fan. There seems to be a lot of waste and it always has a certain flavor. There's a certain taste. So in any case, we got into popcorn making at episode 293. And then for episode 297, which was the episode just before this one, we got into making marshmallows from scratch, something I've never done before and I've since made a couple of times. And sandwiched in between those two was an essential guide to making tinctures, how to make them, how to use them, how to dose them. That was episode 296. So today, prepare yourselves, my friends, because these three paths converge into one glorious, crunchy, chewy, perfectly dosed treat, infused popcorn marshmallow bars. They are like Rice Krispie treats, but with the superior texture of popcorn. I think the popcorn is a really nice, surprising way to change up that recipe. You may be asking, but Margaret, why? Why does this work? Why would I want to swap out my Rice Krispies for popcorn? Well, popcorn is salty and crunchy, and the marshmallows are all sweet, and you mix them all together and you end up with this salty, sweet, crunchy, chewy bar, and it hits all the notes. And it's easier than you think, of course, and it's super customizable, like all the things I love to do on this show. Now, remember on our chat about popcorn, the best popcorn for the job, you want something that's going to hold up to the marshmallow goo. Honestly, that's pretty much any popcorn. I did recently buy popcorn at a local shop that I tend to frequent to buy my vegetables and eggs and whatnot. And I bought GMO popping corn. It seemed fancy, but it was really partly the convenience. And I do try and buy local whenever I can. And I think this was a local kernel maker. And there was a couple of different kinds that I got. And one was like a mushroom style popcorn. I forget the name of it exactly. If I had thought ahead, I would have gotten out the package and had a quick look at it before I started this episode. But when I asked what the difference was, the shopkeeper, hi Sam, if you ever happen to listen to this, she's lovely, and her husband Anthony from the food shop. But she explained that the popcorn, that style popcorn, just sort of opens up more and almost looks like a big mushroom top. So I did not use that one. I used a regular popcorn because I didn't necessarily want the popcorn that I'm swapping out for Rice Krispies to be like super large. And so your basic popcorn is going to work really well for this. You don't necessarily want heavy butter or salt before mixing, so you can kind of skip that part. Just pop your popcorn. You can do it air popped. You can use microwave popcorn too, of course, or your stovetop, which is what I did. But what you really want to try and do is get out those unpopped kernels as much as possible, because I did leave a few of those in, and that was the one drawback that I didn't really like, is sometimes spitting out a couple of popcorn kernels. But I do find also when you cook it on the stovetop, you get fewer unpopped kernels, especially with anything but the butter. Honestly, the butter was the worst for making the popcorn in. Again, as I just mentioned, better for drizzling on top, not for actually cooking the popcorn in. So try and get out those kernels. Now, of course, you're going to be binding all this together with melted marshmallows and some butter. So if you've infused your marshmallows, that is one way that you can have that incorporated into this recipe. But you can also just use infused butter for this too, because you take, I believe it was I don't have to guess. I have it right here. I pulled up the ratios that I had written down. A half cup of butter. And you can use your infused butter, a ratio of infused to regular butter, depending on your tolerance preferences. A half a cup of butter can be quite a bit, depending on how strong it is. So do be mindful of that. I hope you've done your calculations. And a pound of marshmallows in a large saucepan. So depending on where you are with your marshmallow making process, I mean, sometimes you don't even necessarily have to let the marshmallows set if you're going to be doing this. But I did, of course, because it makes more than you're going to use. So this is another infusion point. You might have infused marshmallows. Maybe you're just going to buy store-bought. You can keep it really simple. But these were just some ideas because, you've made your popcorn, you've tried making marshmallows. Now you can combine the two, or it's just inspiration for which to do so. Because maybe you have marshmallows and you're like, what the hell do I do with them all now? Besides just eat them, which is a completely acceptable thing to do. And I think I mentioned in that episode last week how many marshmallows I did eat. If you've popped your popcorn, I mean, that's going to take 5 minutes on the stovetop. You don't even have to let it cool. And then you melt your marshmallows and the butter together. And here you can use infused butter. But you could also use the tincture as well. You could add the tincture while you're stirring in the butter marshmallow mix if you would prefer to use the tincture instead of the butter. It'll work in this as well. But you just need to make sure that everything is going to mix well. And it's going to blend beautifully without adding, if you use a tincture instead of the butter, I mean, you're already adding butter. So, I mean, you don't really have to worry about fat content per se, but using a tincture is not going to add extra fat or make the treats too greasy. And it'll allow for precise dosing, which we always love to talk about. But know your tincture's potency or your butter, depending on which way you're going. Maybe you can do both. I am still in the process of trying to make the freezer tincture, so that is going to have less flavor than a regular tincture, so bear that in mind. But I do find with the popcorn and the marshmallows together that it's pretty good at masking some of that flavor. So basically, it's just like making Rice Krispies. And the reason I kind of like this in a way is because I can make the marshmallows. I can make the popcorn. I don't tend to go out and buy marshmallows or Rice Krispies. I don't really eat that much cereal anymore. Cereal? I don't know. Depends on how you say it. Tomato. I kind of gave up on cereal a long time ago because I remember buying it when my kids were still at home and just being overwhelmed every time I had to go to the grocery store and buy cereal because so much of it is marketed as like this healthy thing to eat, but yet it has got so much sugar in it. It would make your head spin. Of course, there's always the types that are overtly sugar laden and you're like, then there was 1,000 options of that. Like so many grocery stores, there's an entire aisle dedicated just to cereal. And I just got to the point where it was just like, fuck, and I'm not just going to buy any of it. And I've kind of stuck with that. I do enjoy the occasional bowl because if I'm being completely honest, my dad does buy it and occasionally eats cereal. And maybe twice a year, I too will have a bowl, but that's about it. So if you're not really wanting to go out and buy a box of Rice Krispies just to have it sit on your shelf until the next time you make a Rice Krispie treat, maybe you do it pretty regularly. I don't know. This can get you around that. Just make popcorn instead. And you make your popcorn and then you're going to take your half cup of butter with your pound of marshmallows. You're going to melt them on the stove together. You're going to infuse them depending on your preference, maybe the infused butter, maybe throwing in some tincture. And then you're going to throw in your popcorn, mix it all together and press it into a pan. Now I did put mine in the refrigerator. You almost don't need to. I found that you could probably just leave it out at room temperature. It almost made them harder to get out of the pan. Like it really did stick, but you're going to have a nice crunchy, sticky marshmallow treat with this. And it comes together pretty quickly. And of course it is endlessly customizable. So you could mix in things as well once it's cooled a little bit so that they don't necessarily melt. Mini chocolate chips, sprinkles, chopped nuts, pretzels, dried fruit. You could add the peanut chocolate M&Ms as well for something a little bit bigger. You can drizzle it with chocolate on the top afterwards. And if you're looking for something, again, with a higher potency, maybe adding infused chocolate to the top is a way to sort of move it into a higher potency range for those who need that. You could you could sprinkle some sea salt flakes on top, crushed candies. There's all kinds of things you could do, which is kind of what makes something like this fun. And I would encourage you to experiment and share your combos. I love to see how people get creative with this kind of thing. Now, of course, adding all these goodies doesn't necessarily change the dose per square, but it might make them more tempted to folks. So please don't forget to label, as always. In the community recently, one of our members said that they always make their edibles in a shade of green. And I thought that was really clever. Now, this doesn't necessarily protect those who are maybe new to the household, but how many people do you have that are new coming over and opening up your fridge and consuming something without you knowing about it? But to all those people that lived in the household, hi Wayne, this was your trick. They knew that if there was a treat in the fridge and it was green, that you had to be cautious because it was infused with cannabis. So this is another way to sort of indicate to people who may be getting into your goodies that they should proceed with caution, maybe ask about it. I always do like to put the milligrams per serving on a label anyway, but this is another way to further encourage people to ask more questions before consuming without thought. So there's always ways to make the labeling process a little less boring, if you will. One of those also might be using molds that have some kind of cannabis pot leaf motif or something like that so that people also know. I always find when it comes to labeling, the more little touch points that you have to indicate that something is infused, the better. So the overt, this has so many milligrams per milliliter or per serving or whatever in it is excellent. But then just having the visual of a cookie in the shape of a pot leaf or something made that has green food coloring or some kind of green color to it so that it's just an extra layer of protection. So I love to see how creative people get with that kind of stuff too. If you have been making popcorn or you've been making marshmallows and some tincture and you are looking for ways to use it all, you can try this particular recipe out. And I would love to hear how you customize it. Or maybe you don't. You can always tag me at Bite Me Podcast on the gram. That seems to be where I'm most active as far as the social platforms. Find me inside the Bite Me Cannabis Club. I, of course, will link to all the episodes that I've mentioned in this because I did mention 3, and you can find them in the show notes over on bitemepodcast.com. And someone might ask, could I use colored marshmallows? You could try it with caramel marshmallows or other flavored marshmallows if you wish. You're going to get a bit of a different flavor profile, so just keep that in mind. But luckily, popcorn, much like your Rice Krispies, is going to work with a lot of different flavor profiles. So just make sure that you infuse the fat and the tincture as carefully as you would otherwise. And what about flavored popcorn? If you were purchasing popcorn and maybe, I think the caramel, you could use a caramel popcorn with marshmallows and that would actually be probably good too, but I'm also a caramel lover, so keep that in mind. Cheese popcorn? I don't know. I tend to make my own popcorn, but I have seen lots of popcorn on the store shelves. And the cheese one is one you might find most commonly. And I don't know if that would work. That doesn't sound like it would appeal to me. The cheese popcorn and marshmallows. Yeah, it might go well with a caramel popcorn, but I'm not so sure about other flavors like cheese or dill, or I know there's different flavors you can probably get out there. So maybe stick to the sweeter ones, but to each their own. If you try it out and it works, let me know. I would love to hear it. So next week, we are going to be continuing the conversation about tinctures. I know this one was a little more low key in a lot of ways. I'm going to be using the cannabis tincture to make another recipe, but this time in the realm of a beverage. So stay tuned for that next week. I'm really excited to get back into making more beverages. I made some over the winter, but there's something about beverages in the summertime. That's it for this week, my friends. Get popping, get melting, get mixing. Show me your lovely creations. I would love to see them. And then, of course, I don't know if I've mentioned this before, there is a bitemepodcast.shop where you can get Bite Me merchandise. That is correct. You can tell the world that you're a listener of Bite Me, the show about edibles. Head over there and check it out. Something fun that I've been playing around with recently. Until next week, my friends, I'm your host, Margaret. Stay high. Hey friends, it's Margaret from Bite Me, and I wanted to tell you about something a little bit different today, my new favorite pair of shoes. I recently bought myself a pair of 8,000 Kicks waterproof hemp shoes after having the co-founder on my show for an interview, and let me tell you, they have been a game changer. These shoes are not only super stylish, but they're also made from sustainable hemp, which means they're eco-friendly and durable. And the best part, they're fully waterproof. What I love about 8,000 Kicks, besides the fact that they're waterproof, is that they're also lightweight and breathable, so I can wear them all day long without any discomfort. Plus, they look great whether I'm out running errands or exploring the outdoors, and it's nice to have a shoe that can keep up with my busy lifestyle while also being good for the planet. If you're looking for a sustainable, waterproof shoe that's as stylish as it is practical, I highly recommend giving 8,000 Kicks a try. And because you're a Bite Me listener, you can get a discount. Head over to 8000kicks.com and use the code BITEME at checkout for a special deal on your very own pair. Once you slip these on, you won't want to take them off.